Alone in the Dark is a 1982 film that I watched for the first time. This is the one that has absolutely nothing to do with the video game, nor is based on the video game. It is not the really trashed upon film that was released in 2005. This is a slasher slash home invasion film, and it was recently released from Scream Factory. I had heard about it, but I had never seen it before, so this was definitely an exciting first watch for me because all I've heard was praise, and I love slashers, so it always seemed right up my alley. Scream Factory also does, like, they know how to pick their titles when they're releasing stuff, so I certainly wasn't too worried getting into it as a first time watch. But anyways, we've got a good cast in here, actually. Some that I haven't heard of, but I know that are very popular people once I look them up. And then others that, of course, I have heard of. We got Donald Pleasance from, the classic Halloween 1978, who always brings in a marvelous performance in anything he's in. We've got a very early Lynn Shay role, which the only other role that I've seen her in around this time was A Nightmare on Elm Street. So seeing her in here was neat as well. And pretty much that's the only people that I recognized immediately. I didn't take down the actors' names, but the person who plays Frank Cox, and the person who plays Byron. I know those actors are pretty big in the horror community, and especially around the era where when this film came out. We start off with this guy's walking into a diner, and with everything that goes in the diner, you know that it's some kind of nightmare dream sequence. It's pretty clear right off the bat that it is. The diner lady is acting weird right off the bat, and he orders the special, and she just comes out with this catfish looking thing on a plate that doesn't even look cooked. It's just a whole fish. And then this frog starts to hop on the counter and all that, and she starts to there's another character in the diner that starts to give all these like sermons and stuff like that. The back kitchen is on fire. It's a nightmare of some kind. And then you have your one of your antagonists, Byron, waking up screaming in a psych ward. So you know that this film is going to be taking place a lot in a psych ward and dealing with that kind of subject matter. We are introduced to Donald Pleasance, who's a complete loon himself. He's one of the psychiatrists in this ward, but this guy's nuts. Like, he thinks he's invisible to most people, and other than the new doctor that's coming in to replace the old doctor named Harry Merton, and this new doctor is Dr. Potter, first name Dan, and this is our main character. So he's replacing this Dr. Harry Merton in this psych ward, and then he meets Donald Pleasance, and like I said, Donald Pleasance in this film, he may as well be a patient in the hospital because the only thing he has is a freaking badge. I mean, this guy's he's funny though. Like, he's such a misfit in this place. The whole thinking he's invisible thing. He smokes weed regularly, but he smokes it like a classy ass gentleman in one of those like long pipes, and he like handpicks his herb. It kind of reminded me of Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, where he's like, finest herb in the South Valley or whatever he says. It reminded me of like just the classiest weed smoking I've ever seen in a film, especially from a freaking psychiatrist. But the patients immediately don't like this guy Dan, Dan Potter, and one of them, being a paranoid schizophrenic, thinks that he murdered the previous doctor, Harry Merton, and has this, vendetta and plan and plot to kill this guy because he thinks he's evil and everything. There's another patient in the hospital named Frank Cox, Frank Cox is the paranoid schizophrenic. There's another patient in the psych ward named Byron, and Byron is an ex-priest who lit his parish on fire or something like that at one point, And all these people are on the third floor of the psych ward, and it's mentioned that the more dangerous criminals are kept up there, and instead of bars, they have these shutters that work on electricity, so the windows are open, but if they're, it's like motion sensor, so anytime somebody would get near it, the shutters just close and lock, and they nobody can get anywhere. So they use that kind of technology for some reason. I guess they find it safer or whatever. You know, spoiler alert, it turns out not to be so safe. But regardless, they have this plot to kill this new doctor. You also get this bigger guy named Ronald. Ronald Fatty, they call him. Unfortunately, the actor died pretty young. He was 34. Bigger guy, obviously. I read up that he died of some kind of heart failure or something like that. Regardless, he plays another psychotic nutbag. Apparently, he likes to do really bad things to young girls. And then you have these, I think it's four guys, except they don't focus on the fourth very much. It's pretty much just Ronald, Byron, who's the priest, and Frank Hawks, who's like, I would say the leader, kind of. Him and the priest are kind of both equal in leading, but Frank Hawks is like the guy who really has it out for Dan Potter, the new doctor. We're introduced to Dan Potter's family, of course. He has a daughter named Lila, and he has a wife named Nell. And there's another character named Tony, who's a female, who is Nell's sister, I believe. She comes to visit, and she plays a big role because she recently had a breakdown, and she was in also a ward herself, but it was more for like eccentric behavior and like passive aggressive bipolar, like very. She had like, I think she has like some kind of depressive, like manic depression issue or something like that. But she comes in to visit the family, and she's wild. Like she's like really into reggae music, Rastafarian culture. She has like this side ponytail. She's into punk rock, like underground punk rock, which they feature this actual band, this band that exists. It was this underground New York punk band in that New York punk band scene, and they call themselves the Sick Fucks, and that's a big thing in this film. That like a reason, like they kind of became popular because of Alone in the Dark, I hear, and a lot of people, like even in the special features, talk about this band called the Sick Fucks, and when I've read like reviews for this film and articles and stuff like that, the Sick Fucks are always mentioned. So apparently the band is very cultish, along with this cult film kind of thing. So in the middle of the film, and this took me by surprise because I really didn't think the film was going to go in this direction. There's a blackout in the city, and this blackout causes everything to go out, including the power in the psych ward. So those shutters that I was talking about stop working, including the doors also that these psychopaths are, you know, the rooms that they're locked in, the doors are now open and they get out. And they murder this guy named Ray. That murder scene of Ray is sad and terrifying because you could just see the terror in Ray's face. He's hiding in this closet, and then the bigger guy, Ronald, finds him, and he's like, he's just so scared of these guys because he knows he's absolutely helpless with these guys that have like severe mental problems, and he gets his back broken by the big guy. It's just it's nuts. They escape, and then they go to this like local. It's not a weapon store, but it's like a utility store, kind of like they sell like garden tools, and they sell guns too, and they end up getting some crossbows and all this stuff. Also with this blackout that I found weird, everybody starts rioting. So everybody is literally rioting every store and breaking windows and stealing everything they can, like it's post-apocalyptic. It's a freaking blackout. I've never seen that happen during a blackout. Like, do people riot during blackouts? I've never heard of that in my life. I was like, holy shit, why are these people going so nuts over a freaking blackout? Jesus. But, so these guys, when they break out, they start to go hunting or looking for Dan Potter, the new doctor, and it then goes from it's a really good combination of slasher and home invasion, because the third act is complete home invasion, and they're trying to break into Dan's house and they're interrogating the family, and it's Dan and his wife and his daughter and Tony, and this guy, this really strange guy that also is a very odd character to introduce and kind of comes out of nowhere. When Tony is a protester, and there's this whole nuclear power plant situation going on that she's very much against, and she makes posters for, and she, protests with, and she goes with Nell, the wife, to protest this thing. And then they end up getting arrested, and she meets this guy who also got arrested, who also was part of the protest, named Tom Smith. And Tom Smith offers them a ride home. And there's a babysitter named Bunky. Bunky the babysitter. She's a very hot babysitter too, but why they named her Bunky, beyond me. She is asked to babysit at the house for a while, unknowing that this big guy Ronald broke into the house, and Lila's there alone. You can only imagine the kind of shit that he says to her and the cringe that goes on there. Just leave it at that. And then she's asked to come over to babysit, so she does. And then this guy Ronald basically goes into hiding in the house for a while. Doesn't hurt the girl, so that's good. But she then invites her boyfriend over to screw while the parents aren't home. And they end up getting attacked by Ronald and suffering some pretty grisly deaths on that one. With the home invasion thing, it was probably my favorite aspect of the film. The villains are so well put together, and their performances are great. I really love Byron as the crazy preacher guy. Donald Pleasance at one point asks him like, "Yo, don't forget about the 10 Commandments and everything. Thou shalt not kill." And he's trying to convince him to stop this madness. And he just comes up with he comes out with this line, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord," and then he just gives this sinister laugh. And his facial features, his facial expressions that he gives throughout his performance are just so creepy and so villainous and evil and effective. He's so good in his performance. He's probably my favorite villain. Even more so than Frank Hawks, who's like more of the leader guy. It's Byron who steals the show when it comes to sinister and scary presence from a character and from a villain especially. There's obviously an homage to a hockey mask when they break into that store or whatever to grab a bunch of stuff with like the crossbow and everything. One guy puts a hockey mask, and then he takes some kind of blade and literally cuts out an organ from somebody. He does it in one swap, so it's not really super realistic, but it's a cool effect, because this, like, I don't know if it's a heart or something like that, or just like some piece of some body part, and it's just on the knife, and just the guy, he's like, falls over. It was funny. It was funny, and it was a good gore effect too at the same time. And then with this Tom Smith guy that I was talking about that Tony meets at the jail. When they're at the house, the police are already at the house too, because they were called during, because after the murder of the babysitter went missing. They didn't find her for a while because Ronald ended up putting her in the closet. But regardless, the police were there and all the cops were investigating the house. And then the wife invites Tom Smith to stay for dinner, and she actually drops this line in front of her husband. She's like, "I wouldn't mind having another man around here tonight." Ouch! To say that in front of your husband, it's like, wow, thanks for calling me a little pussy. Oh my gosh. Because he was acting like nonchalant about everything too. Like, this whole situation is happening, including the psychopaths coming out of the hospital, and he knows that they're after him. He knows that, unless he's an idiot, that they have some kind of vendetta for him. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. He just shrugs everything off, like, whatever, the babysitter's missing, whatever. There was, one of the psychopaths who is known to be a kitty fiddler was here, you know, while Lila's home alone. Ah, whatever. She's not hurt. She's fine. Literally, he's saying this. He's like, she's fine. She didn't get hurt. He didn't touch her. And the wife's like freaking the fuck out, obviously. And and then she drops that shit when she invites Tom Smith, and she's like, I wouldn't mind having another man around here tonight. And then 2 minutes later, she also invites the one of the cops, the sheriff, like the main investigator guy. She invites him for dinner too. So you have this whole dinner with Dan, Nell, Tony, the daughter, uh, this new guy Tom Smith that Tony met like an hour ago, and this sheriff, and they're all having dinner, and then that's when the main home invasion begins, kind of thing. Um, and with Tom Smith, they turned him into a villain. Now I don't know what his deal was. I don't know if he's like they never mentioned it. He just shows up as a normal guy, and then he starts acting completely weird. And then there's this one scene where he's hugging Tony, and he starts to bleed from the nose. And I mean by bleeding, I mean like pouring blood, and it just drips all over Tony's face. And then he gives her these evil ass eyes, and then starts making out with her. And then the little girl Lila ends up handing her mother a knife, and then the mother stabs Tom Smith to death. But I like there was no reason given on what his issue was, why he bled from the nose, why he went evil, where he came from, other than you know them meeting him at the jail. That was it. Like he just showed up, and then they made him evil, and they didn't give an explanation why whatsoever. So maybe I missed something. I don't know. And then you have kind of an abstract ending too, where first of all, like I said, this guy Hawks, right? Hawks, yes. Frank Hawks thought that Dan Potter murdered Harry Merton. And then at the end of the film, it shows Harry Merton on television on an interview. So he kind of has a whole realization that, oh my God, Harry Merton's still alive. Like, I am crazy, jeez. And then he just leaves. And then he goes to this show where the Sick Fucks are playing again. Or I don't know if it's the Sick Fucks playing again, or if it's another band, but he goes to the same hall and everything. He just forces himself in, and he's just walking around the dance floor, and then he meets this woman who seems just as crazy as he is. Like, she starts talking about nonsense and gibberish and stuff like that, and she claims that she met him already, like, a previous night at the bar, and then he just starts to lift a gun to her neck, slowly, and she's like, you wouldn't dare. Oh, you would dare? And the movie kind of just ends there. So if this film's going for abstract, I didn't get it. I'll need to watch it again, but they do a couple things like that where they'll introduce characters but don't really give much explanation to them. Maybe they were going for a bit of a mystery on that sense. So because I know this film does or did play around a little bit with you, like, how do you know what's crazy and what's not? How do you know what is the definition of crazy and what is not? Because everybody can kind of be crazy in their own ways, maybe. But they definitely push it to the extreme, especially with like Tom Smith, you know, starting to bleed from the face and then go evil all of a sudden out of nowhere. So it was an interesting film. They do a lot different with the genres that it plays with, and they blend both a slasher vibe and a home invasion vibe really, really well, I must say. So credit goes to Alone in the Dark for being quite revolutionary for 1982. And, you know, this was like when Jason and Freddy was coming out. And then you have this one, which is way more unique than those kind of films and those kind of tropes that were polluting is the wrong word because that's negative, but swarming the 80s. You know, I love Jason and Freddy, so I'm not going to say they were polluting the 80s. That doesn't make any sense. But this one was very different amongst that sea of slashers that was the craze back then. It's a cool film. like I said, the characters, especially the villains, are really great, and it's tense when the home invasion stuff starts to go on, and it's a very entertaining flick. It's a well done piece of horror, I would say, and it's definitely a classic, and good for a Scream Factory for putting out a updated copy of the thing. So that's what I got on Alone in the Dark from 1982. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews, and I will be back for more soon. Check out the ones already on the channel, and until next time, have a great night, and cheers.